Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and we are continuing with my Japanese movie collection. And we are kind of close to finishing box 2, so I think I'm just going to run through and finish it off, no matter how long it takes. So let's get rolling here. First film tonight is an Ozu film, of course, again. This one's called The Only Son. So this one I think is about a woman who, let me read the back here. It examines the motherly love of a peasant who gives up everything so that her son can have education in Tokyo. So years later she pays him a visit thinking he's going to be a successful person, but it turns out he's not doing so well. So similar to a lot of Ozu's films, you're really concerned here a lot about the direction and the acting. And they're usually very top-notch, and that's what makes a lot of his films interesting. So The Only Son is good. If you're a fan of this director, you know what to expect. Yes, I recommend it. It's a good one. Not one of my favorites from him, but certainly good. Now the next two here are my first blind buys. I bought these the first time I went to Japan. So it was like 2007 or something like that. Yeah, 2007. Onmyo Shojo, Part 1, and I have Part 2 here, too, in a separate DVD. So this one is, it's like a made-for-television movie, a two-part movie. It involves a high school girl who attempts to retrieve some mystical orbs by fighting and defeating supernatural beings, like zombies in a forest, a bandaged demon dude who lives in the sewers, a fortune teller, and a red devil, as well as some human baddies who want the orbs for themselves. So I think it was, this one actually has some pretty good cinematography and visuals for a made-for-television film. I remember the fights themselves are just are pretty low grade and not very impressive at all. But you have like that plot to keep you going. Lead actress is quite attractive. And, I don't know, there's something about this one. It's you know, when I rewatch it, and I've rewatched both of these at least twice in the last 10 or so years. So you're talking about a 4-hour runtime for both of them together. And I seem to like it a little bit less every time I rewatch it for some reason. But the first few times I went to Japan after the first time, I would rewatch these before going. So it has kind of a, I don't know, it gets me in the mood to go there. So I guess it's got that going for it, but, you know, I don't even think you can find these anymore. I couldn't find them online when I checked. But you're not missing out on much if you don't see them. Next one. This one's really good. I gotta do a separate review. Orochi, Blood. I think this one is a Kazuo Umezu-based work as well, if I remember correctly. And, this is very cool stuff. This is not a horror film, but it's got some horror elements in it. Let me read my little write-up here so I don't screw something up. Okay, a girl with eternal life obsesses over observing the transgressions of humanity, traveling the world to chronicle the lives of those she meets. In this film, she discovers a mansion that is home to a renowned actress and her 2 daughters who are affected with the family curse. So again, the main reason I saw this, I think it has Mitsuki Tanimura in it as the supernatural girl. And she observes this family, and this family's kind of messed up a little bit. And there's some real strong internal conflict to it, some really good twists. The mansion is fantastic, the environment. This is a really interesting and well-made movie. If you have not seen Orochi, I definitely check it out. You know, it's kind of a slower-paced drama, mystery type thriller thing with a little bit of horror sprinkled in. Check this out. I think it was released in the US on Region 1 DVD. Alright, our next film here is from Takashi Miike, and I will cover it, of course, when I get rolling on my Miike filmography review. That is Over Your Dead Body. So this one's really interesting because it has... It's about a stage play based on Yotsuya Kaiden, which we've covered a handful of times already in that playlist. And, you know, it's a group of people who are rehearsing a stage play for that story, and weird things start happening outside of the stage play that kind of mirrors the stage play itself. So you have that juxtaposition there going. And, one thing you're going to notice when I do my Miike filmography is that there are some of his earlier movies that I dislike that are pretty popular, and there's some movies that he made recently that I really like that people don't like. So I don't know, this is one of the ones I think is pretty underappreciated, man. This is a pretty cool flick. But I'll get to that when I review his playlist, or maybe I'll get to it during my Asian horror playlist. One of the two playlists will have a review of this. Alright, our next one here is a pretty sweet DVD set. This is called Penance. This is the 5-episode, I believe, mini-series that was directed by Kiyoshi Kurosawa. And on its surface, it has a plot that's similar to Confessions, the movie from 2010, about a mother who tries to get revenge for the death of her child. And it doesn't quite play out the same way, though. People compare it, because I think it was written by the same person who did Confessions, but it's a little different for sure. Not really a revenge movie per se. So each of these miniseries episodes deals with like a different set of characters, and then you have this lady who kind of flows in and out of the stories. Now, the lead actresses in this, Kyoko Koizumi, who's the lead actress, so she's very good. You have Yu Aoi, who's a really good actress. Eiko Koike, who was in 2LDK. Sakura Ando, who is the supporting actress from Love Exposure. And Chizuru Ikewaki. So you have 5 elite actresses, really, in this miniseries. And it plays out kind of like a slow-paced dramatic thriller. Very cool stuff. Very long runtime, but it's definitely worth checking out. Penance. I'll have to do a separate review of that one as well. Next here is a film called Possession in Japan. I will cover this when we get to 2011 in my Asian horror playlist. Pretty basic Exorcist-style plot. Something you've seen a million times before, but the execution's pretty good, and there is a twist at one point that I wasn't expecting. So this one's not too bad. I'll cover it when we get to 2011. Alright, one of my favorite Asian anthologies that I think is, again, pretty underrated and underappreciated is Prayer Beads. I covered this in 2004 in that playlist, the horror playlist. This one, you get 270 minutes of horror content. What is that, 4.5 hours? And you're talking 9 short films spread over 2 discs. And there's some pretty cool stuff in this. I rewatched this, I think, last year, and I really enjoyed it. Prayer Beads. Definitely check it out if you're into horror anthologies, and you can check out my review in the Asian horror playlist for 2004. Another 2004 film is Premonition. Yes, this is a pretty cool one. This is about the killer supernatural newspaper of death that predicts a horrific future for people. This one, pretty cool flick. I liked it. I remember the first time I saw this, I was home alone. It's one of those things where you specifically remember when you saw a movie at a certain day and time. I don't know why this one was so memorable for me. It's a good flick, but for some reason I really remember that night when I watched this for the first time. It's kind of weird. Just when I was getting into Japanese horror. So check out Premonition, or check out my review of it. Now, another huge one. Again, one of my favorites of all time. We got Pulse, also known as Cairo, from Kiyoshi Kurosawa again. Again, this is the one where you have increasing number of people in Tokyo kill themselves, and there's ghosts that are overflowing into the human world, and are kind of exponentiating the suicide effect. I freaking love this flick. Glacially paced, about as much atmosphere as you can have in a movie. Very depressing movie, but very interesting and well made. Check out my Asian horror playlist video from 2001 for my review of that one. Now, our next film here is not a horror film, but I don't know if I include it as a special mention or not. but I'm definitely going to do a separate review on my channel. And that is Pyrokinesis. This is from Shuzuke Kaneko, the guy who gave us the Death Note films and the Gamera trilogy from the 90s. This is pretty cool. This is kind of a slower-paced thriller about a young woman who has the power to manipulate fire, and she uses that for her vigilante causes, basically. And the cops are not too appreciative of this, so they're trying to track her down. She's got bad guys trying to track her down, and there's some cool stuff in this one. I really enjoyed this one. Not as high octane as you might think it would be, but it's definitely pretty interesting stuff. Check out Pyrokinesis if you haven't seen it already. The lead actor from Lesson of the Evil and he appeared in Woodjob too. Hideaki Ito is in this, and also Masami Nagasawa, who's a very popular actress. She's very young. She has like a supporting role in this. So yes, Pyrokinesis, I definitely recommend. Next is one of Roger Swan's most favorite Japanese horror films, and that's Rampo Noir. A very edgy, violent anthology of some very weird movies, man. A very visually striking film, but you got some weird stuff in this one. So if you're interested in that kind of film, check out Rampo Noir. Tadanobu Asano, very popular actors, and I think every one of the shorts is a different character. This may have come out in 2005. Check out my review from that year. 4 chilling tales into the mind of madness, yes. It's, you have to be prepared before watching that one. Alright, next is a decent entry in the Hideshi Hino Theater of Horror. Of course, I have all of these because I bought the box set. This is more of the hit or miss horror DVD set, whereas the Kazuo Umezu set is mostly hits. Ravaged House, not bad. Kind of an interesting premise, set in a rural village. There's a guy who's like suffering from an illness, and things go from there. Again, I cover every single Asian horror movie in my collection in my playlist, so check it out. Now, here are 3 films that, again, underappreciated, in my opinion. You got Rebirth of Mothra, the Trilogy. This is a 2-disc set. I have the 3rd one in a separate disc. So you have 1, 2, and 3. And these are films that are kind of made for kids, but they got some pretty cool kaiju stuff in them. Now, let me give you my thoughts on Rebirth of Mothra 2, which is my favorite of the bunch. So in this one, all right, say what you want about these movies, but they represent some pretty creative kaiju films. 3 little kids protect a hairy little animal. Okay, so you have 3 little kids in Rebirth of Mothra 2 that are protecting a hairy little animal, which looks like a Furby, and whose pee cures physical ailments. So that's convenient. And they protect this little guy from a flying monster and a really big monster. So, this has got some really fun stuff, man. I had a ball watching Rebirth of Mothra 2 in particular. And Hikari Mitsushima, the lead actress from Love Exposure, actually has her film debut in Rebirth of Mothra 2. Cute little kid running around, playing with Furbies, fighting monsters. How could you not be entertained? The first Rebirth of Mothra film has a really cool indoor kaiju scene. Like the kaiju monsters are shrunk or something to like action figure size, and they're fighting inside somebody's house. I mean, come on. How could you not be entertained by that? So, yes, they're pretty fun movies. Rebirth of Mothra 3, I think, was the least fun out of all of them, but it's still pretty good. So I say check them all out. They're good. They're good stuff. Don't listen to the critics. A lot of people hate them for some reason. I don't know why. You have another Ozu film, Record of a Tenement Gentleman. Yeah, so this is one where you have a fortune teller who finds an abandoned boy in the streets and brings him back to his tenement, but nobody wants to take care of this kid. he tries to get like a widow to take care of him, and they're trying to work things out. And the kid eventually wins them over, and things go from there. So again, an Ozu film, it's worth watching, and you should know what to expect. Solid direction and acting. All right, we got a grimy one next. You go from Ozu to this in my collection, Red Room 2. I don't have the first one because I was able to rent it. The second one was not available for rent, and I felt like watching it, so I had to buy it. Again, people locked in a room, real low-budget film. They need to do disgusting things to one another to win a certain prize. You know what I mean? Both of them are pretty good movies if you're into these grimy, disgusting horror films, gross-out films. But they have their positives. Check out my reviews. I think the first one came out in 99, and the second came out in 2000. Another horror film that's really good, Reincarnation. Takashi Shimizu, I believe, directed this. This still could be the only Japanese horror film I've ever seen in a cinema. It's been over 10 years since I've seen a Japanese horror film in a cinema. Isn't that ridiculous? Pisses me off. But this is a very good one. Again, check out my review. I think from 2005 this came out. Give you my thoughts on that. It's really good. Alright, so we go from Ozu to a disgusting horror film to a classy, ghostly type horror film about reincarnation. Back to a Naruse film. And this one is Repast. So again, this is pretty cool. Already you know you're in good hands when Setsuko Hara is on the front cover, right? So this is the one I think where you have a stale marriage. You know, you have this lady, her husband, their marriage is getting stale. And I think one of this lady's younger family members visits this girl, and she almost ignites this guy's youthfulness again, and they go and they hang out together. You know, I don't think he's not like adultering on her or anything, but it creates a little bit of a problem there because he's almost like finding his youth again through this family member instead of his wife. You know what I mean? And that's the premise. It's a very good movie. Repast is solid. One of the Naruse films of the many that I would recommend. Alright, the next one here, another Kiyoshi Kurosawa film. That is Retribution. Again, this is excellent stuff. If you're a fan of Pulse, you gotta check this one out. It's almost like a horror thriller about a series of murders, and there's, you get the usual Kiyoshi stuff. You got like the philosophical type themes that are peppered throughout the film. Some really interesting developments that occur, some really creepy moments. This director's just, the guy's fantastic, and there's nothing like his movies anywhere else. I got the Region 2 release of that movie as well. Then, this is one that I have misplaced. I should have put it in my little Godzilla section under G, but it's under R for Return of Godzilla. This one I got, I didn't want to get the Godzilla 1984 version. I wanted to get the original cut, and I think that's what this is. Could be wrong. This one, typical Godzilla film. I think the atmosphere and the horror elements in this are a little stronger than most. I did find Godzilla in this one to be a bit of a pushover, though. He wasn't as nasty and difficult to kill as he usually is, but pretty good flick. A vast majority of the Godzilla films are watchable for sure. And I will eventually do a Godzilla filmography review, but that's a few years down the road. High School Rika, Zombie Hunter. I covered this already, I think in my 2008 video for Asian horror. Pretty fun movie. It was better than I thought it would be. And they can get zombie movies right once in a while. And we finish off with two more horror films. You have, of course, it's every fan of Japanese films should have Ringu in their collection. A classic of the new wave, I guess you could call it, of Japanese horror. Check out my review of 1998 for this one. Again, it's basically a must-see and have. You should know that by now. Special features, not a whole lot of special features, though. And then finally, I will review this one in 2011, my 2011 video, and that is Ring of Curse, also known as, I think it's known as Gomenasai. Or is it a different film? Well, either way. Ring of Curse is a good movie. Not as generic as you think it would be. And I will cover this when we get to 2011 in my playlist. I think it's a 2011 film. So, yes, pretty good horror film, underappreciated. Pretty interesting as well. So that's box 2. Good progress. Alright, so be sure to join me for my next video when we'll crack into box number 3. And as always, I will see you next time.